Hey everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the Fandea Fabric Sew Along. Today we're going to be starting the Purse Pal by Lynn's Handmade Designs. So if you don't have that pattern, go ahead and grab that. So I'm going to start off by going over the materials that you're going to need and tips for cutting out the pattern. So you're going to need some vinyl, leather, or cork. You will need a piece of fabric for your lining, some thin fabric for your card slots. I am using 2.5-inch wide ribbon. You will need a 5-inch purse zipper, or if you're going to be using zipper tape, you're going to need to cut that at 6 inches. And if you're using the zipper tape, you're going to need a zipper pull. You will also need a spring snap, both female and male ends. All the hardware I'm using today is available at Fandea Fabrics. You will also need some way to set your spring snaps. You will need some fabric tack or leather glue, some fray check, some spray adhesive. Anything that says that it tacks to fabric will work. You'll need some scissors, a ruler. I would recommend getting a circle punch to cut out your card slot circles and the spring snap where you'll be installing the spring snaps. You can also use at the end, if you want to edge paint, I'm using a flexible acrylic paint, and you'll need a way to apply that, so an edge roller is recommended. And you will definitely need some clips or something to hold your vinyl in place. So when it comes to cutting out the pattern, the pattern comes as a PDF, and it also comes as an SVG file, so you can cut it on like a Cricut or a Silhouette. So I had my Cricut cut out the vinyl for this. When I do cut out the vinyl on my machine, I will put the right side of the vinyl on the mat and mirror before I cut, so that way when it's taken off, it's on the intended side. When it comes to the lining piece of fabric, my machine does not like cutting fabric, so I will have it draw the pattern piece with the zipper box as well, and then I'll go in and cut it with my ruler and rotary cutter. As you see, I did line this with interfacing. Interfacing is not, you don't need it for this pattern. I just solely do it because, again, I have my machine draw in marker on my fabric and I don't want it to bleed everywhere, so I'll use interfacing. Again, it is not needed. Interfacing is not needed for this pattern. So I am going to just quickly show you how I'll cut out if you're going to be hand cutting. So just use your pattern piece to cut out your pieces. And then when you're cutting out your zipper box, you want to make sure that you do not go past the points of that triangle, or your box will be too big. So I'll cut it and leave a little bit and go in with scissors and cut right up to the point of that. And then the same with the V. You don't want to go past the markings on the pattern. So you want to be very careful. So now you'll have your, this is the lining fabric. So the lining fabric will have a cutout in the middle, and that will be ironed to create a zipper box. So when it comes to the slip pocket card slots, you'll want to cut out your pattern piece. If you're doing it by hand, cut it out, and then transfer all the markings from the pattern onto the wrong side of the pattern, your fabric, your leather. And then this is where the circle punch is going to come in really handy. So your markings will be on here. Use your ruler and your rotary cutter to cut out the slots, and then go in with your punch and we'll cut that out. So now you'll have your pockets, your card pockets with the holes, and this will just help prevent your leather, your vinyl from ripping over time with taking cards in and out. Make sure you put in your hole for your snap. Your main body will have the zipper box cut out, and I believe that's, and then you'll have your, so if you're using the SVG file, you'll have two rounded ends, two pieces with rounded edges. If you are hand cutting, note step 1 in creating the snap closure. It gives you the dimensions for how big you need to cut your rectangles, and I'll get to that when we construct that. So we're going to start today. We're going to be installing the zipper and creating your snap closure. So you're going to need to set aside, grab out your main body with the zipper box cut out. You'll need your lining piece with the zipper box. You will need your 2 snap closures and your zipper, and then you'll need the female side of your spring snap. So you can set everything else aside, and we will start by gluing. Grab your fabric tack, and we're going to glue these 2 pieces together. So on the wrong side of your vinyl, put some fabric tack. And then we're gonna stick them together. If you are using if you have the rounded edges, the round end, I'd suggest starting by lining that up, because that is what's gonna be seen. Your other end is gonna be inserted into the purse, so you're not gonna see that. So we'll go down, make sure everything's lined up. Try not to get your fabric tack on the vinyl, because it is very hard to get off. Once you have that lined up how you like it, set that aside. I like to put it under something heavy just to kind of help it stay in place. And then we're gonna go and iron open your lining fabric. So your zipper box, when it's all ironed open, should be roughly about the same size as the leather vinyl, the leather zipper box. So each side is going to be about 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, so it'll be about 1/4 of an inch on each side. So you'll iron this. You'll iron your other side. Don't pull it. Just let it lay. That's what the end, the V is for, to help you keep it the same width. And then make sure you iron your triangle as well. We're back. You should have a nice ironed zipper box. This is what it should look like on the reverse side. So set that aside for a minute. If you're using zipper tape, you're going to want to install your zipper, your pull. So you're going to install it by the rounded edge is going to go in the teeth first. Make sure it's going to be on there straight. I like to pull it into the middle. So when everything's closed up, this rounded off edge is going to be the top of your zipper. Set that aside for a minute. Now we're going to grab our main vinyl piece with the zipper box cut out. And I like to add markings for the middle of my zipper box, so when I'm installing the zipper, I can get it fairly lined up and straight. So your zipper box is roughly about 1/2 inch wide. So go in at 1/4 of an inch. Go in at 1/4 of an inch and mark the center. And this will just help give you visual of the center of the box. Get your double-sided tape and about like 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, lay that down. You want it close to the edge, but you don't want it right up against the edge, because when it's all sewn together and then closed up, you'll see some of the tape. Do it to all sides. And then we are going to peel off. I'm going to peel off the paper. Take your zipper, and if you are using directional vinyl, you want to make sure that when your zipper is installed and closed, that it's all going to be going the same way. The zipper is going to be up at the top, and your design will be going the correct way as well. So again, the rounded edge is the top of the zipper where it'd be closed. So I'll take and line up the center of the zipper with the markings that I did, making sure that there's going to be enough of the zipper end on both sides so everything gets caught. But you don't want it too close to one side, because then when you're closing it up and sewing it, it will make it very challenging. So flip it over, make sure you're happy, line it all up. You can peel everything back if you need to and adjust it. Now's your chance to double check, triple check that when your zipper is closed, your vinyl is going the same way. So your zipper is going to be up here, your vinyl is going to be going the same way. So now take your lining fabric with the zipper box ironed out, and we're going to take the spray adhesive and we're going to spray the back, the wrong side of your fabric, making sure to get around the zipper box really well. I would suggest using a scrap piece of paper or cardboard, something to just prevent the glue from getting everywhere, because it is very sticky glue. So your hands might be a little sticky. It is very sticky glue. So just be careful not to get it all over the place. All right, so flip your zipper, your main panel back over, making sure that everything's going the correct way. If you have directional lining fabric, make sure that that's going the way you want it to go, so that way it's not as big of a deal if you end up putting it on upside down, but you will, you'll see it when you open it up. So lining up, kind of like what we did with the outside, lining up the middle of the zipper box with the middle of the zipper. You want to make sure that when we top stitch, you're going to catch your lining. You should be able to peel it back if you need to and readjust. If you need to spray it again, go ahead and spray it again. You don't want any of your fabric overhanging. Your lining is cut slightly smaller, so if you have overhanging fabric, it's not centered very well. So we're going to be top stitching this at 1/8 of an inch. So I would check from the edge of your vinyl and make sure that when we're top stitching that your lining fabric will be caught. All right, make sure everything's sitting flat and won't move when we top stitch. All right, so we are going to top stitch around our zipper box, and we're going to do that at 1/8 of an inch. You want a fairly large stitch length, and start on the opposite side of where your zipper pull is, so you have a little bit of a get going. I do not backstitch when I start. I'll pull my thread through, and I'll show you that in a minute. Stop with your needle down, lift your presser foot up, and move your zipper pull out of the way. When you come up to the corner, you want to make sure you're staying at 1/8 of an inch. Stop with your needle all the way down just before it's about to come up, and then hand crank it so it's starting to come up so that your thread catches. Lift your presser foot up and then turn it. You might need, if you have a hump jumper, you might need to put something underneath your presser foot to help you get over the little hill. If you don't have a hump jumper, you can use a piece of vinyl folded up, or this isn't that big of a hill, so just a single layer of vinyl underneath your foot, wrong side towards the foot, will just help you get over that little hill. Again, you're at the corner. So stop with the needle down, bring it up, and then rotate it, and then start coming down. And then before we get to the other side, as I said, I don't backstitch, so I will pull the needle thread through to the back, and I'll tie that off. That just gives it a little bit cleaner of a look on the front. And then continue down. Now we're coming up on the zipper pull, so we're going to stop with our needle down and move it out of the way again. And then I'll pull that last one through and tie it off again. And then you want to make sure that everything was caught when you top stitched. So you want to make sure that your lining fabric was caught. If you didn't line it up quite right, I would avoid taking the stitches out, because you're gonna have to line it up again, and it's just easier to go in at 1/4 of an inch and go around again. All right, so you want to grab your snap closure piece. So you'll either have the rounded off edge or you'll have the rectangle. If you have the rectangle, grab your pattern piece and you're gonna cut out the correct size with the rounded off edge for your bag. And we are going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch. Now, as I said before, the top, the squared off end, is not going to be visible. So I like to start there and do some back stitching. 1/8 of an inch. keeping the same stitch length as I did with the zipper box. And we're gonna come around, we're coming up to the end. So just take it slow, one stitch at a time, and slowly just pivot your piece. Not too sharp of a pivot, or you won't have that rounded off stitching. Trim your threads. If anything shifted, if your edge is kind of overhanging, you can line up your ruler with your stitching and kind of just trim that down. Now we're going to, if you don't have your hole already for your snap closure, grab your circle press. So we're gonna go ahead and punch out and then take your, this is where your female end is gonna go. So you'll have the top, and then we're gonna put on, grab your setter. I'm using a hand press one. I don't have a one for my machine yet. So you should have your completed, your finished snap closure with your female end installed, and your zipper installed top stitch with your lining. So go ahead and snap a picture of that and put it in the comments for the corresponding day. And we'll come back tomorrow and construct our card slot.